Hi everybody, this is Mr. Phillips coming at you. Today is Tuesday morning. I'm recording this to talk a little bit about the discussions for this week, based in the online textbook, the Valencia Writer that we're using for this class this term. I hope by now that you have been reading into it and maybe even clicking around exploring the textbook. The last week I asked you all on the schedule to be reading the first couple essays to associate with the narrative essay that you'll be writing here in the next couple weeks. Some sample narrative essays in the textbook last week, and then a couple more this week. And this week, you'll be participating in discussions about those readings. So hopefully, as you read this week's selections and having, hopefully, always with that disclaimer, hopefully, having read last week's couple selections, hopefully you're ready to begin doing that, or will be in the next couple of days. So just to kind of walk you through the process already, obviously I'm here, as you see, logged into Canvas. This is our home screen as always, announcements and everything that I always put up there. So to get going in this, you're going to want to, be in the online textbook. Now I'm on my, desktop browser like I always am. I know some of y'all might use the app on your phone or something like that, and always the layout may be a little bit different. The website, the Valencia Writer is its own standalone website. You can reach it through various links within Canvas and within our syllabus and everything. But on my desktop browser here using Chrome, I just have the textbook, excuse me, bookmarked as a website, or saved as a, I think they call it pinned these days, pinned as a website here, so I can always go to it. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. But know that on your own individual device or computer or laptop, whatever, you may have different ways to get to the Valencia Writer online textbook. So however you do it, however you want to get there, that's on you. But for me, I just, again, I have it bookmarked here. So I'm going to go to the Valencia Writer here. This is basically the home page. Well, I guess technically this is the home page, but you can see all these links here. Readings is always the one we're going to be using. This is where you'll find the actual readings that I'm assigning. This is an online textbook. It's a collection of a huge amount of materials here that they've been assembling. So there's no paper textbook, as you know by now. You certainly should know this for this course. So we're going to click into the readings here. And, you can read all these disclaimers about anything that you might want to be, whoops, I didn't mean to click on that, sorry, that you might want to be using here within the textbook. But scrolling down here, we're going to be, reading in the narrative section. That's the assignment that we have. So the four things that I have asked you to read and am asking you to read: Death of a Pig by E.G. White, an excerpt from Night by Elie Wiesel. Night is a full-length book that he wrote, and this is just an excerpt from it, a part of a chapter from the book. We have Living Simply in a Dumpster by James Hamblin here, and we're going to have Yellow Journalist here. So each one of these you should be reading or have read or will read, etc. So Death of a Pig, you're scrolling all the way down. As you can see, these are just pulled from various websites here. These are not formatted the way you might normally see in a textbook. You're going to have your little pop-ups here, so click. So it's not necessarily formatted the way it would be in a traditional paper textbook, but you would read all the way down. And, as I said, this is just a link to a page from the Atlantic magazine website. So going back, you got that. You have excerpt from Night. Again, this is about, Elie Wiesel is a Holocaust survivor, so he's writing about his personal experiences in the Auschwitz concentration camp during the Holocaust. It's a horrifying piece of writing. If you've read it already, it's quite brutal, quite ugly, as you might imagine. But this is what I'm asking you to read. And then the others, we have Living Simply in a Dumpster, again from the Atlantic, about a university professor dean who literally moves into a dumpster voluntarily to see, how this could be adapted into a lifestyle, into a method of housing, etc. And you'll, read in the essay why he does it. Don't want to spoil it for you. And then finally, Yellow Journalist, about a writer and one of his first, as it says, a novice writer at the New York Post, one of his first professional writing jobs, how he got the job, what it was like for him to be, the rookie on this staff here. So you read these four essays, one at a time, all together, whatever pacing you want, and then back into Canvas. And you can certainly read more. You have more narrative essays here in this section, what I would always, as you read these things, what I always want you to do is remember that they are narrative essays. We're assigning them to help you write your own narrative essay, the way that you tell your story. So read the way these people tell their stories, because that's basically what they are. That's what a narrative essay is. It tells a story to make a point. So as you're reading these things, try to understand what their point is, why they want you to be reading this. You know, is there a larger theme to it? How do they make their point? How do they tell their story? And then overall, what lessons you can glean from it about how to write your essay, how to write a more effective essay. So as we get back into Canvas here, to do your actual discussion assignments, you'll click into the discussions or get there however you want. And we have this one. This is what we're talking about. Response to textbook readings. So these are the questions that I present to you. You don't have to answer these questions. So read through the little guidelines. Your response should be 250, 300 total words. You can write as much as you want. This is not a limit. You don't have to write. It's not like you can only write 300. You can write as much as you want. I'm not asking you to write 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 words unless you want to. But somewhere a good substantial response. Post your thoughts about the assigned readings as a response as a direct reply to this post. So literally you will come down here and click reply, and that's where you'll start writing your post. That's what I mean. With your name and subject, and this is really just to help people sort it out, who wrote what, so they can see who they're reading as they start to click on them, etc. As I always say, do not just summarize. Don't just summarize what the readings are about. Assume that the rest of us have read it. Your classmates have read it. So you don't need to tell them what it is. They already know what it is. But we want to know what you think about it. What's your response to it? Help us understand, help us analyze these things, and we'll try to help each other with the larger goal, again, of helping us prepare to write our own narrative essays. As you do these, whatever story or essay, I should say, that you write about, you need to have at least one quotation from the text. And I say, to make sure that our discussions are grounded in the text so that we don't get too far off topic. To make sure that we are reading and understanding and considering these texts as narrative essays. And every time you do that, you'll have your MLA formatted citation, your reference, your works cited page at the end, and you can always look up in the writer here how to do that. Always, find your MLA, how to create your works cited page, and we can talk about that more later if we need to. Sorry. And then you'll also reply to at least 3 of your classmates as they get their original post. And that's kind of how we arrange it: original posts and responses. So you're writing your original post up here, and then you're responding to 3 of your classmates, at least 3, to keep the conversation going. For any conversation, that's what we want. We don't just want to hear, great post, I agree. You can agree, you can disagree, but take the conversation a little bit further, move the ball. Help us create a really ongoing conversation about these texts. Don't just write a summary on your own and then respond to someone else and say, good post. Good post doesn't really move the conversation forward. So got some deadlines here. Do your best to hit these deadlines. I have you basically, 3 questions or so for each essay, each of the 4 essays: Death of a Pig, The Excerpt from Night, Living in a Dumpster, Yellow Journalism. You do not have to answer all of these questions about any one essay. You do not have to write about any or all of the essays. I kind of hope you won't. And I said that in my previous announcement. Really, don't try to write about all 4 essays. Maybe hit 1 or 2. If it really, the 1 or 2 essays that maybe really intrigued you. Maybe within one essay, you really hit one question that really intrigues you. Maybe I wouldn't even say, even if you limit yourself to one essay, I might say, don't even try to answer all 4 questions here. That's a little bit much. I would rather have depth. I'd rather have substance than a quick little, 180, 75 words to each question. Because if you really try to do that, that's all you'd be able to do, really. Unless you are writing 14 pages, and we don't need that much. So read through all my questions about each essay. See what intrigues you. See what you can do with to kind of generate some discussion here. And as always, discussion is the word. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to trade ideas about these. The ideas about these essays. So within Death of a Pig, the author kind of associates himself with the pig. He makes the pig and the pig's death kind of symbolic of his own life and death. And you can kind of see where he does that in a few places. So I'm asking you, how and where does he do that within that essay? How and where does he kind of imply that he understands, this pig's life and death has something to do with his own? It's reflective of his own, symbolic of his own. Another question, E.B. White, if you don't recognize the name, he is the one that wrote the great book Charlotte's Web. So now, having read this essay about the pig's life and death, which is more or less a true story, does that give you any additional insights into Charlotte's Web? Does it change your perception of that story? Do you like the story better? Do you understand the story in a different way now? We find out right away from the title in the very first sentence that the pig does die. There's no drama. There's no cliffhanger here. We don't read the whole essay wondering, is the pig going to make it? We know it doesn't. So I'm asking, as a storytelling technique, would it be more dramatic not to reveal it so early, to keep you wondering until at some point late in the essay you find out that the pig finally does die? Is it more dramatic to do it the way it is, or would it be more dramatic to kind of rearrange it? There's no right or wrong answer. We want to hear what you think, because this may have to do with how you write your essay. If there's some dramatic moment, do you want to reveal that earlier on, or do you want to maybe hold that off till later in your essay? What do you think would be more effective? Kind of a standard question. In what ways is this a narrative essay? How does it not adhere to your expectations? How is it different from the typical? And the answer might be that it's not, that it does adhere to your expectations, but that's up to you. Within Night, a couple of questions for you. This is an excerpt from a particular chapter of a longer book. It's not a very long book, but it is a whole book. Does this essay pulled out from the one chapter, can it serve as a standalone essay like this? Or do you think you need more? The beginning and ending of this section that we present here, that is presented here as an essay, are you satisfied by it, or do you need either a more traditional, introduction or conclusion or something different? Just evaluate the essay the way it is pulled out and presented as an essay. Narrative essays frequently do not have what you might think of your standard structure: introduction, body, conclusion. Within this essay, this excerpt from Night, if you were to try to kind of block off certain sections and say, this is the introduction, this is the body, this is where the conclusion begins, where would they be? Where would those sections be within this essay? And maybe you can't find them. Maybe they're not really there. That's up to you. That's part of the conversation here. Elie Wiesel places his own story into the larger story of the Holocaust and World War II. That's why these events are happening, obviously. So kind of think about the relationship between this. Does his story, his experiences help you understand the Holocaust more, or does understanding the Holocaust help you understand his story? And, you may have to kind of think about the question I'm asking. Which one helps you understand the other more? Does knowing a little bit about the Holocaust help you understand what he's going through? Or does understanding what he's going through as one person help you understand the Holocaust a little bit more? Again, obviously, no right or wrong answer. Same questions above. In what ways is this a narrative essay? And in what ways is it a little bit different from your typical, or what you might expect to be a typical narrative essay? Some more questions about living in a dumpster, kind of same thing. This question here. We typically think of a narrative as things that have happened. Let me tell you what happened. But a lot of this essay, the dumpster essay, takes place in the future, or things that have not happened yet, or things that he will do. Does that change the very nature of a narrative? Should that not be there? Should we not really refer to it as a narrative essay, or is that okay to do? So think about some of these questions. Pick whichever one or ones that you want to answer. Give us some substance about it. Give me your quotations from each one, and then get that post up. Just click reply, start your post. I'm coming to the end of this video. I'm always limited to 15 minutes. I'm over 14 minutes now, so I've got to talk fast here. But get this done as soon as you can. Get some posts up there for us to start responding to help us understand these essays. I'll have more to say about different things, for this week and for your assignment, and different announcements or whatever. But this is meant to be just about this discussion assignment. So get going on this. Do your best. Work hard. I can't wait to read what you got to say. And you will hear from me soon. Take care.